Sometimes you don't realise how good something is until it's gone, and that's what I'm currently going through with Battlefield 1. By the end of this game's life cycle, I was 100% ready to move on to something new, something different, and something that I hoped would have been better. But unfortunately, Battlefield 5 hasn't quite turned out to be the game that we all thought it was going to be, at least not yet anyway. And so I decided to come back to Battlefield 1 for a bit. I've played quite a few matches over the last 3 or 4 days, and I wanted to see what it was that we left behind. And my goodness, didn't we move on from something absolutely awesome. The first thing that you're going to notice when you go back to Battlefield 1 is the atmosphere in this game. If you play any map, any game mode, you always feel like you've just been dropped into the middle of a massive ongoing war. The smoke, the explosions, the screams, the shouting of different soldiers, the gunshots, everything just comes together in this really beautiful way to create something extremely immersive and absorbing. And that's despite some of Battlefield 1's maps being quite small. The DICE team still managed to surround you and make you feel like the war was happening in every single corner of every map, all the way through the round. And that's probably the biggest thing that I think is currently missing from Battlefield 5, and maybe that's why I notice it so much here in Battlefield 1. World War II was also a global war, with massive battles and huge armies facing off against one another across hundreds, if not thousands, of different battlefields. And yet the maps in Battlefield 5 don't ever really feel like they're taking place during that global conflict. The maps don't feel like they're alive. The only one that I could say that does feel that way is Devastation, when the ash cloud comes in and the air raid siren goes off in the background. Then you do get a sense that something massive is happening beyond the buildings that you're fighting in and around. Battlefield 1 manages to give you that feeling on almost every map, almost every single time you play the game. And that's no small achievement, considering Battlefield 5 that came after this game struggles so much to replicate that. Having that constant reminder that you're just a very small cog in a massive machine really sets a tone for the experience, and for me, it gives me a bit of a kick up the backside to try and play the best that I can to try and win the game for my team and get that victory, especially when the music starts kicking in. During rounds of operations, the thematics come right to the forefront, and the mixture of epic music and the relentless push forwards with just waves and waves of reinforcements, that creates an experience that you're not likely to forget for quite a long time. And speaking of operations, that is something else that I've missed. Operations was Battlefield 1's brand new and leading game mode, with most of the maps, if not all of them I think, that launch with the game being designed to support that experience. You're pushing through sectors, you're capturing points, and moving forwards as a team of 32 players against a defending team who need to stop you from gaining ground. It was one of those revolutionary moments in the Battlefield franchise. A game mode comes along that offered the scale and action of the Conquest game mode, but in a completely different way, offering a completely different experience. Operations managed to find a place within the Battlefield community on par with Conquest, I think, but its focus on linearity gave it a slightly different fan base. Fans of Rush in previous games suddenly had a 64-player experience built right into the game, purpose-built to be played with 64 players, instead of people having to rent servers, crank up the player count on maps not designed to support 64 players. That was the case in previous games. With Battlefield 1, DICE had created a game mode that supported that kind of playstyle, and I think a lot of people were happy that was the case. But not only that, Operations managed to add narrative into a multiplayer setting, something that the Conquest mode had never really been able to do. The battle you were about to take part in had meaning to it, and historical importance. The outcome of that battle would decide the next moves each army or empire would have to make, and depending on if the attackers or the defenders won, different outcomes would occur. The huge roars as attacking teams would move into the next sector, trying to take more land. Again, that got you amped up for the fighting that was about to happen. And if you lost all your reinforcements in a battalion, your commander would give you a speech and try and rally you for the next attempt. The mode was a brilliant addition to the Battlefield franchise, and the narrative element that DICE added to it allowed them to create a new way to play Battlefield multiplayer matches. Instead of just having to find a server in the server browser and joining what would have been an in-progress match, you'd instead matchmake into the start of a round with 63 other players, and you play through the entire battle from start to finish. I really liked that element to the mode, everyone starting on that even footing. But at the same time, I think matchmaking did somewhat become the game mode's downfall. Matchmaking wasn't always brilliant in Battlefield 1, and it wasn't until much later on in the game's life that DICE decided to add operations to the server browser. That broke the flow of getting players into matches all at once and starting everyone at the same time, but people liked the game mode that much that ultimately that point could kind of be cast aside in favour of people just getting to play the game mode. Unfortunately, however, DICE decided to tinker with operations between Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, and in my opinion, they destroyed what made the game mode so great. Instead of that continuous push forwards across different maps, DICE decided to split the mode up into 4 separate days, and each day would be a different game mode. And with that change, I feel they took away what made the game mode so appealing to the players that liked it. They did, however, transfer the operation structure into another game mode, now called Breakthrough in Battlefield 5, but at the same time, the Breakthrough mode lacks any of the narrative structure that Operations gave you in Battlefield 1. So in the transition between games, I think DICE managed to ruin something that they'd only just created, which is quite sad. It felt like change for the sake of change, and it was certainly to create one of those back-of-the-box features that they could market the game with. Whilst the team might have intended to make a more varied and differing experience, they ended up making a worse experience, and taking an experience away from players who liked what had been created in Battlefield 1. Happily, however, Operations is still plenty populated in Battlefield 1, at least in the EU anyway, so I'll be coming back regularly from now on to get my fix of this game mode. And something else that I really miss from Battlefield 1 is the sniping experience. It is just so satisfying. But let me explain why I miss it so much, because when you compare that statement to some of the things that I've said about Battlefield 5, you might be a little bit confused, so I'll clarify what I mean here. Firstly, I miss Battlefield 1 sniping because it just created a really epic feeling. DICE implemented the sweet spot feature, and that meant between certain distances, the rifles would do more damage to the upper torso, and this would result in you pulling off more one-hit kills. And as a sniper in a video game, who doesn't love being able to take down players just time after time? It felt great, and it still does, to be a sniper in Battlefield 1, taking down players at distance and just racking up kills. It was rather easy though, dare I say it, casual, but perhaps that fitted well into the gunplay that Battlefield 1 offered, which overall wasn't particularly engaging. However, was that sniping experience that good for players being shot at? Well, no, of course not, because being shot at is never a great experience, but outside of, dying to a sniper, it's the sweet spot feature again that caused some problems. Not until very late in the game's life did DICE finally implement a feature that allowed players to know if they were at risk of being one-shot by a sniper. Since launch till around the release of the final Apocalypse DLC, nothing was available for players on the receiving end to know if their fate was going to be a death or just heavy damage. DICE finally added a rainbow scope glint alongside the standard white glint to Battlefield 1. That rainbow signified that you were in the range of being one shot by a sniper who was looking at you, so eventually you got the information you needed, but the entire life cycle of Battlefield 1, everyone on the receiving end of sniper kills never knew if they would get one shot or not, which ultimately, looking back, wasn't a great idea. The fact that it was rather easy to go and kill people all the time as a sniper, The experience was just a bit cheesy. Yes, it felt awesome. The reload animations were always really cool to look at. The headshot sound was really nice to hear in your headset. The rifles themselves, they felt weighty, and their firing sounds were really hard and punchy, but the experience was quite unbalanced, because players on the receiving end just didn't know what was coming towards them. It was great to be a sniper in Battlefield 1 and just keep slamming headshots and one-hit kills till the cows come home, but I think when you compare that experience to the one in Battlefield 5, the one we're using now, at least you can say that the Recon class sits in line with the rest of the classes in the game. Battlefield 5 offers a much more readable gunplay experience overall, and I infinitely prefer it to what we had in Battlefield 1. But damn do I miss pulling off some of those outrageous one-hit kills in this game. So yeah, it's safe to assume that I enjoyed my return to Battlefield 1, and you know what? I think I'm going to keep coming back to this game. I'm going to do some live commentaries, I think, maybe play some rounds and then edit those up for you guys to watch. I might even take some suggestions for what weapons to use and such, so let me know what you think of that idea down below in the comments, and leave this video a like today if you do want to see more Battlefield 1 content. The more likes this video gets, the more I'll know that you guys want to see Battlefield 1 content. But a big thank you for watching this video today. It was great to go back and play something that I absolutely love. Even if the gunplay isn't quite as good as Battlefield 5's, you know what? I can get past that. The atmosphere in Battlefield 1 is just incredible to be part of. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.